What's up, everybody? We're back with another off-season video. This time we're talking power rankings, and I'm going to list through my top 10 teams in the NFL before the season starts. This power rankings is just that. It's ranking the teams based on their whole roster in its entirety. It's not saying that if team number two plays team number four, team two is always going to win, and that's what I believe. This is me saying these are the teams with the best rosters from 10 to 1. The 10th best roster in the NFL. I think it's the Miami Dolphins. I think they're going to take a bigger step up this year with some key players stepping up and some key additions in the offseason. You can see the grades across the board. Offenses, their strength in this team, especially with their wide receiving core. Getting Tyreek Hill will be a nice pairing of second-year wide receiver standout, Jalen Waddle. Really, it's all about the QB consistency with his team. Tua has some games where he looks really great, especially being a dual threat quarterback, and has some games he looks like he's lost out there. So that's on the offensive side. That's their really big question mark. On the defensive side, they got great cornerbacks in Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, especially Howard, one of the top, if not the top cornerback in the league the past few seasons. What concerns me with the Dolphins on the defense side of the football is their front seven, especially their run defense. This is where they got in a lot of trouble last season. If the other team's able to run the ball and control the clock, it's hard for this really good Miami offense to have the ball in their hands and put up more points. So that's something to watch this year. I'm not completely sold on the Dolphins, but even with the new coach, Mike McDaniel, who did wonders out in San Francisco, I'm always wary of a new head coach, especially one that seems to be more of a football guru like McDaniels, who's not much of a football guy. He's more X's and O's and less hard in football. So we'll see how he does in his first year in Miami. The ninth best roster in the power rankings, Philadelphia Eagles. I'm really excited to watch these guys this year. So I think they can even propel themselves up as the season goes on in the power rankings. Give them their offensive grade at B. And really, that's just because of how inconsistent they are, especially with Jalen Hurts throwing the football at quarterback. Everyone knows what that guy can do with his legs. But I see this guy overthrowing his wide receivers on 10-yard hitches too much to be given this offense too much higher of a grade. That being said, if Hurts can take a step up this year in the passing game, the sky's the limit for this Philadelphia offense. They have a great O-line and some really good running backs, along with Hurts, obviously, in the run game. And then getting A.J. Brown at the wide receiver position is just such a huge addition for this team. It allows second-year wide receiver Devonta Smith, who's a lot less physical and a much better route runner than a lot of peers, a lot of time to develop there as a second-best wide receiver. I already mentioned the QB inconsistencies being a weakness, but on the defensive side, really strong all around, except for the pass rush and maybe in thin linebacker. But this Eagles defense is giving too much time to the opposing quarterbacks to get downfield and make plays. They do have a good secondary and some really key draft picks this year. A couple of standouts out of Georgia and that defensive side that can really bolster this defense if they can step up and play right away. And then in terms of special teams coaching, nothing too special here. Not entirely sold on Nick Sirianni, head coach, and their special teams is just about average. But we'll see what happens this year. As I'm looking to see the Eagles take a step up and win the NFC East this season. The number 8, this might surprise some people, with the Chiefs being number 8 in the power ranking. The real reason here, you see the A pluses, it's their defense. It's really hard to win games in the NFL without a solid defense. And this year, the Chiefs defense, which has normally been pretty bend, don't break, got a lot worse with the few key departures, the highlight being Tyrann Mathieu, their longtime safety. Obviously, their strengths, you got Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, those two minds together. You can put a lot of people on the field and they're going to win games. Obviously, Travis Kelce is one of the best tight ends to ever do it. Now getting Juju Smith-Schuster as a slot receiver will still be pretty solid with for that offense at the wide receiver position. Solid O-line, not really much of a run game, but they don't have to because of how good Pat Mahomes is, especially in the scramble mode. And Harrison Butker, kicker, seems to make every field goal in the book, so that's not an issue. The real problem with this team is the defense. Terrible run game. What used to be a decent secondary to make up for this run game is getting thinner and thinner. As I said, they lost Tyrann Mathieu. They also lost their starting cornerback, Charvarius Ward, who's been very solid as he goes to the 49ers. So their defense in general is just really taking a downfall. Without Chris Jones, this defense is really, really thin. He saves them a little bit, but all in all, this defense is what makes the Chiefs not as good in my mind this year, and I don't think they're going to be the winners of the AFC West this season. This team, the Browns at number 7, It's just such a very solid roster all around. Great offseason moves by the Browns too. If it wasn't for their QB availabilities, you see I mentioned as a weakness with Deshaun Watson missing the first 6 games of the season, they might be a little bit higher in this rankings. But that being said, offensively, they got the best running back room, the best two-headed monster running back in the NFL with Chubb and Hunt at a wide receiver, making great moves to get Amari Cooper this offseason after losing Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry in the previous seasons. On defense, incredible secondary. And then really good, one of the best pass rushers in the game with Myles Garrett too. Keep all the key players all around. They have someone there. They lack a little bit of linebacker, but that's something you can get away with in the NFL, as you see in the weakness. Between this O-line, their pass rush, their secondary. If Deshaun Watson can play solid football, the Browns are going to win a lot of games this year. Stefanski, a coach, seemed to be the real deal there. And I really like what he's been doing as play caller and head coach. So the Browns looking up this season, hopefully with Deshaun Watson in place of Baker Mayfield, they win a few more games and turn some more heads this season. And number 6, I'm putting the Packers here. Packers always seem to have one of the best regular season records, but never really can put together in the playoffs. You can see them the weakness, no matter how many games they win, no matter if they're 1 seed, hosting people at Lambeau and they're bitter cold in the playoffs, they can never seem to get it done. Rare change of pace this year for the Packers, where their defense is actually the strong suit of this team rather than the offense. After the departure of Devontae Adams and a little bit thin in wide receiver, this offense is definitely not what it used to be in the passing attack with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. Luckily for them, probably the second best running back room is in Green Bay with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, and a very solid O-line, especially when David Bakhtiari is healthy. So solid offensive line, solid offensive run game. Aaron Rodgers knows how to manage games and can win with a lot less talent than a lot of other quarterbacks need. It's this defense that's really going to step up and carry the Packers this year, more so than it has, at least in recent years. And then at coaching, Matt LaFleur, very much like Kevin Stefanski, Sean McVay, Shanahan, really good play caller, savvy. And then Mason Crosby at kicker has been faltering recently, but it's been very solid as a Packers kicker in years past. And if you don't think kicking matters, ask the Chicago Bears fans how they're still feeling about that Cody Parkey kick in the playoffs a few years back. Number 5, last year's Super Bowl runner-up, the Cincinnati Bengals. Incredible offense. We all saw that on show last year. Joe Mixon has been very solid at running back. Having Joe Burrow at quarterback just seems unfair for a third-year player right now. He seems so cool, calm, and composed back there in the pocket. And then having his wide receiver core that he does, especially with his old college teammate Jamar Chase, just seems unfair at this point. It seems like no matter what you do, Joe Burrow is going to have a solution for it and throw to one of his many key wide receivers that they got in this team. The defense, I give them a B grade. They are a bit subpar, which you think would warrant a lower grade, but where their strong suit is on this team is in the secondary. And as long as you can play a bend don't break defense, kind of like the Chiefs have done the past year, and let your offense carry you, and you make the other team trade touchdowns for field goals, then you give yourself a fighting shot in the NFL, especially when your offense is as prolific as this Bengals team is. So they're doing the right move, at least stocking up the defense in the secondary. And not letting up the big chunk plays all the time. And then their coaching and special teams seems great, especially their kicker, McPherson, who I think went perfect in the playoffs for a rookie kicker. I mean, the guy's got ice in his veins, and you can call on a guy like that to make field goals on whim like that. That's going to be huge come later in the season in the playoffs again. So expect the Cincinnati Bengals to be, again, in the playoffs, especially with a new strength in O-line. They went out this offseason and got 3 key offensive linemen in free agency. That seemed to be the really huge weakness of this team. As you saw in the Super Bowl with Aaron Donald getting to Joe Burrow within seconds almost every play. That new addition to the O-line will be critical to the Bengals' success this year, including the playoffs. The 4th best team is the Chargers, who I thought made an incredible leap this year in terms of players added in free agency, highlighted on the defense with Khalil Mack at defensive end and J.C. Jackson, one of the best cornerbacks in the game from the Patriots, getting stuck there in the secondary now alongside Derwin James at safety. What I love in this team, the strengths on the offense is, obviously the big play offense with Justin Herbert, his ability to extend time in the pocket and his huge arm and arm strength. Love how they have Keenan Allen there when he's healthy, and new extension where Mike Williams, his big 6'5", go up and get a wide receiver, really plays this offensive style. And now with, like I said, uh, Joey Bosa alongside Khalil Mack, this pass rush is going to be very dangerous, not giving opposing quarterbacks much time to get their receivers downfield. What scares me about this Chargers team is that they're very unproven. They seem to always have a pretty good roster and never be able to put it together. We'll see if that changes this year. I have a feeling with Justin Herbert, things might turn around. I really believe in that guy and think he's got a lot of talent. I love the coaching there. Great mindset from the coach. Defensive oriented guy, but just knows how to play hard nosed, smash mouth football, and a team that kind of lacks that. You see here the run defense and the power running on offense. They're not necessarily there, but they play the toughness mindset that's instilled by their head coach. That really helps them. But ultimately, I think the downfall of the Chargers is going to be their run game. Their offensive line is pretty solid, but I don't like the fact that they don't like to run the ball between the tackles too much, and that creates issues when teams can kind of stack the edges and the outsides of the box rather than playing their front seven real strong up the middle. Number 3, the Super Bowl champions last year, the Los Angeles Rams, who seem to really have no weaknesses here on the team, as you can see by my report card grading, A's across the board, especially with the A+, with their coaching. Sean McVay just proven to be one of the best coaches of our generation, certainly offensive mindedly. This team is great with the passing attack. Obviously, Odell Beckham tore his ACL in the Super Bowl last year. So what do? They go out and sign Allen Robinson to a pretty team-friendly deal. I think Robinson, especially as a number 2 wide receiver, is going to be great alongside Cooper Kupp, who won the Triple Crown in receiving last year. Defense, and you got Aaron Donald on your team, arguably the best defensive player of all time if he keeps up at this pace. You got guys like Jalen Ramsey at cornerback and now Bobby Wagner at linebacker. So they have a top 3 position player at each level of the defense, that being D-line, secondary, and a linebacker. They just have so much across the board. The thing that's the small weaknesses on this team, the run defense, the linebackers aren't great here, but the strong defensive line definitely makes up for that. They're a little bit star dependent. If Aaron Donald goes down, if Jalen Ramsey goes down, if Cooper Kupp goes down, then this team's a lot weaker. They're very dependent on these star players to perform, and they did just that in the Super Bowl. But if that production starts to either slide or injuries take place, this team's a lot more vulnerable than other teams. They're not as balanced as the next 2 teams I'm going to talk about, like the Buccaneers, who I have as my second best team in the NFL. You see their A's across the board, no A+, but I think this team's well balanced. If one guy goes down outside of a quarterback position, which goes without saying, this team is still putting itself in a position to win. Obviously, when you got Tom Brady at quarterback, you're going to be a threat in the playoffs no matter what. The guy just makes the playoffs every year. He's healthy and usually runs deep, but very balanced offense. Solid offensive line. Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa at right tackle. Really been really solid for them his entire career, his entire young career, albeit. And then Leonard Fournette really finding his home in this offense, being a power runner, but also now being a little bit more of a receiving threat out of the backfield. And then at the wide receiver position, 2 very solid. Mike Evans, 6'5" wide receiver on the outside. Chris Godwin, very shifty slot receiver. And now with the addition of Julio Jones in free agency, this wide receiver core seems very, very solid, even without Rob Gronkowski at tight end, the receiving threat due to retirement. As long as these guys, stay healthy, the majority of this offense stays healthy, there's no stopping them. And then the defense is very balanced too. One of the best secondaries in football, albeit very young, which concerns me a little bit. But their linebacker core is great, highlighted by Shaq Barrett, Devin White, and then the guys on the defensive line like Vita Vea, who just really is a difference maker at defensive tackle. And now adding Akeem Hicks alongside of him at defensive tackle is going to make it very hard to run against this team. And when you get pass rushing from the interior, like your D tackles, that is extremely dangerous and gets the QB off their spot. Again, I'm naming a ton of players on both sides of the football. It's because I just love how balanced this team is in all phases of the game. Coaching, it's going to be interesting to see what this team can do without Bruce Arians at the helm. He's now taken a management position within the Buccaneers organization. Former Jets head coach and Cardinals defensive coordinator Todd Bowles takes the helm. His first stint as head coach didn't go too well in New York for the Jets, but he's got a lot more talent here in Tampa Bay, so we'll see what he can do. I've always been a fan of him. I hope he can lead the Bucs to success this year. But it's going to be tough to win the Super Bowl if you're playing the Buffalo Bills, who probably to no one's surprise is my number one team in the power rankings. Again, a very well-balanced team across all aspects of football. What I don't love about them is they lack a traditional run game. A lot of their leading rusher, I think, is their quarterback, Josh Allen. But I love what they did in the draft and getting James Cook out of Georgia. I think he can be a difference maker right away. And one of their weaknesses on the defensive side of the football was their pass rush, and they addressed that by going out and getting one of the best pass rushers in the last 10 years and definitely a difference maker in last year's Super Bowl in Von Miller. I love the head coaching here with Sean McDermott. I think he's just an absolutely great coach and just is the epitome of toughness and winning tough grind football games, which is really the epitome of the Buffalo Bills organization for the last however long, 25 plus years. I think he really fits that city and that team well. Can't say enough good things about the Bills, especially their secondary, highlighted by Tre'Davious White. He's one of the best cornerbacks in the game, coming off of injury. It's really hard to do anything against this Bills team. It's going to be really hard to see anyone stopping these guys this year. But even in a tough AFC, you never know what can happen. There's a lot of teams that are really solid on both sides of the football, so we'll see what can happen this year. But that is the power rankings. Let me know what you think. If there's any teams that I left off that you think should have been on the list or any disputes. If you like this video, definitely give it a like, subscribe to get more content, and I'll see you guys in the next offseason video.